I'm Lisa Stone. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Parenting Aces.
Welcome to the Parenting Aces podcast. I missed y'all last week. I'm sorry that we didn't get an episode up. It was kind of a crazy week getting ready for the Saul Schwartz Safe College Tennis All-In Tournament here in Atlanta. But speaking of the Saul, we had an incredible weekend. We started with a bit of a rain delay on Saturday. A massive storm came through the city early Saturday morning, leaving puddles of water, debris all over the courts. But our incredible tournament director, Dave Scully, got out there with his blower, and we had help from others at the Georgia Gwinnett College facility helping us get the courts ready. And after a 2-hour delay, play got underway, and it just went off without a hitch from that point forward. So I want to say a huge thank you to all of the players and their families that came out and played this weekend, to our sponsors, Holabird Sports, for presenting the tournament year after year, Wilson Tennis for continuing to support us from day one, and all of our other sponsors who have just been unbelievable in providing financial support and prizes and marketing support and items for the player goodie bags. We have photographers. We had lunch. It was just an incredible weekend. So I want to urge those of you in the Baltimore area, or who might be willing to travel to the Baltimore area, August 11th and 12th is our second Saul Schwartz event of the summer. And to register for that event, you can check out the show notes. The link is there. It is myutr.com/events/102. So it's not too late to sign up, and we really hope to see all of you up in Baltimore. All right, so moving on to this week, the BB&T Atlanta Open is underway here, so that's where you'll find me all week, out watching some amazing ATP Tour tennis. I'm thrilled that some of our local kids have had an opportunity to either play in a wild card playoff, to play in the qualies, or as is in the case of Emil Reinberg, who plays at University of Georgia. Emil got a wild card into the main draw and will play on college night, which happens to be tonight, Tuesday. So it's going to be a great week of tennis out at the BB&T. If you're in town and you're out there at Atlantic Station, please tweet at me, text me, message me, come find me. I'll be wearing my Parenting Aces cap, and I would love to say hi and maybe pose for a selfie. So come out and watch some great tennis and enjoy the beautiful Atlanta scenery this week at the BB&T Atlanta Open. Now, for this week's episode, what a thrill to get to chat with Ryan Lipman and his mom, Lisa Lipman, about, all things tennis. Ryan and his two brothers came up through junior tennis, played college tennis. They're all three still involved in tennis now. And the boys have recently launched a website called Tennis Takes, where they are sharing all of their knowledge and experience with the rest of us. And to have Ryan, who is the assistant coach at Vanderbilt now, on the show with Mom Lisa was just thrilling, and I was just so excited that they agreed to do the podcast. So I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to let you just listen to these two share their journey, their experiences, their wisdom, and just sit back and enjoy this week's episode with Ryan Lipman and Lisa Lipman.
Ryan Lipman and Lisa Lipman, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast this week.
Of course, we're happy to be here.
Thanks so much. Ryan, I'm going to start with you. You are the middle of three brothers, all of whom played tennis. And I would love for you to share with our audience a little bit about your life in tennis, starting with when you first picked up a racket to what you're up to now.
Gosh, okay. Well, it's been a long journey. I started when I was, correct me if I'm wrong, Mom, but I think I was about 2 years old. and my mom and dad used to go out to the courts in our neighborhood and would hit with each other, and they would bring me along, and I would grab the racket and, drag it around the court, I think, and try and connect with a few balls if I could. And then it just kind of grew from there. I really started to pick it up when I was 7, 8 years old, is when I kind of remember falling in love with it. And then I played a bunch of sports. I played soccer. I played a little bit of basketball. And then I guess at about 13 years old, I had to make a decision of whether I wanted to continue to play those other sports or if I wanted to kind of dial in and make tennis my passion. And I was obviously a lot better at tennis, and I enjoyed it a lot more just because it was I was out there by myself, and I took all the blame, or I had all the glory for winning and losing, and I enjoyed that rather than the team aspect of the other sports. So I made that choice at 13, and it was, there's so many ups and downs, I'm at 13, 14, 15, I was glad that I made that choice, and then also I was a little bit upset that I made that choice because there were so many hard times with it, but it kind of made me who I am today. And at 14, my coach he coached a lot differently than a lot of these coaches, and my game took a long time to develop. So I wasn't seeing a lot of results until I got a little bit older, like 15, 16, 17 years old. And
Who was your coach at that stage?
Bill Tim.
Okay.
Bill Tim. I think he's a Hall of Fame. Well, he is a Hall of Fame coach. I don't think that he is.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he's incredible. So
He's
Coach.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
He's brilliant.
Yeah,
so
brilliant.
He was coaching you for the long term, not for the short term wins at the local level 3 tournament.
Correct. Yeah, I started with him when I was 6 years old, and he was as hard on me when I was 6 years old as he was when I was 18 and 21 even in college. So that was his style, and it worked out really well. I'm very thankful for him. But it took a long time for my game to develop. So like I was saying, at 16, 17 is when I kind of really started to reach the goals that he saw me reaching. And that's when it became obviously a lot more, I don't want to say fun because I was winning. It was really fulfilling, because I saw my hard work starting to pay off.
Mm-hmm. And winning's fun too. Come on.
Absolutely. But it shouldn't be all about winning, right?
Right. But it is more fun to win.
100%. Yes. So that's when I started to see a lot of good results, and which inspired me to keep going. And then I made the choice to go to Vanderbilt over a couple of other, big institutions, and that was an awesome decision because I got to stay here in Nashville with my friends and family, and I got to continue my relationship with Coach Tim, and then also work with Ian Duvenhague, who's my head coach now. And it was an incredible relationship that I built with him as well. So, that was kind of my journey. I played a bit professionally, but I got hurt, so I had to stop playing after about a year, and then I knew that coaching was the route that I wanted to get into, so it was an easy choice for me.
And so now you are the assistant men's tennis coach at your alma mater.
Correct.
Yeah, but you went to Auburn before that.
I did, yeah. So it's crazy how timing works out because as I was saying, I got hurt, and right out of college I was hurt, so I took a year to recover from some surgeries, and then I got back to playing, and about a year into it I realized that my body wasn't going to hold up, so I had to find something different. And right at that time that I was thinking that I would stop, Bobby Reynolds, who played here at Vanderbilt, who was a absolute stud here, he got the head coaching job at Auburn, and he brought me along with him, and it was one of the best years I've had in my life. It was such a great experience, and then once the job opened up here at Vanderbilt, I couldn't say no to it. It was just an obvious choice to jump back to where I play, where my family is, and where I'm from.
Yeah, that's amazing. I don't know if my audience even knows this because I don't talk about it all that often, but I actually went to Vanderbilt for my first 2 years of college before transferring to UCLA. Yeah.
No way.
So, yeah. So we have something in common.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Well, I also went to Vanderbilt.
Too funny. I wonder if we were classmates. Except I suspect you're a bit younger than me. That's too funny.
I think so.
Yeah. No. So you're an assistant college coach now, and what is the goal with that?
Like for me in my journey as a coach.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, I'd love to be a head coach one day. Hopefully that's here at Vanderbilt, but if it's not, then somewhere else. I just really enjoy the aspect of building relationships with these players, and I hope to see, them develop into awesome, contributing members of society, and then continue to build those relationships as they get older and have families, and stay in touch with them. That's kind of the way that's why I wanted to get back into coaching, is because I love the relationship that I have with my coaches, and I want to be able to do that with my players as well.
That's fantastic. So, Lisa, you're sitting here listening to all this stuff, and I'm sure a lot of it is, I knew that. I'm his mom. I lived it. But when you look at him now and your other two boys and see where they are as a result of coming up through this tennis journey, I mean, how do you feel about that? And what are I know how I am, looking at my kids, like, now that they're grown-ups. I mean, but to have three come up through the tennis ranks, it's pretty impressive.
I'm real proud of all my kids. And most importantly, that they found a sport that they loved and stuck with it. And tennis is a great sport, but it's a hard sport, as you well know. Because it's all on your shoulders, and the losses are hard. The wins are fun, but they're not as, they're not as often, and it takes a lot of work to make it happen. What was the question?
I was just asking you, like, looking at your kids now, like, what do you think about where they are, and, comparing that to the journey that y'all have been on together?
I think tennis has brought them so many amazing opportunities, from just the travel, the people that they've met, the independence they've learned. I think I was most impressed when they were younger and they started, just how you have to learn to stand up for yourself, whether you're having to, question your opponent about a line call, or whether you're having to, just talk to a tournament director. As they got older, they traveled by themselves, and they really learned to interface with adults quite well. So I love that aspect of tennis. And I think the other thing that really, that I love about my boys and their relationship is how close they are, the three of them, because of the sport. But also, they still keep in touch with kids that they played when they were 10 years old at a qualifying, and just that circle, it just kind of continues. And I think it was a key component of them staying in the game, was they had wonderful friends to train with and to push themselves with, because you're not on a team sport, but you find your own team to work with and make yourself better, and they have incredible friendships as a result of that. And so that, as a parent, that was a key thing for me, was trying to keep it fun and trying to keep them liking it until they got to college, because I knew that once they got to college, then they would actually be on the team, and then that would be really fun.
Right. What do you think you did well as a tennis parent that helped keep them in the game? Because I think a lot of parents really struggle, and they're always, I think I can say this with certainty, that in all kids there is a period where they want to quit or start questioning their commitment to the sport. I can't imagine there's any kid that doesn't go through that, at least for a short period.
Right. Well, again, I'm going to say for my boys, and each one was different, in a way in how they approached it. But allowing them to have fun and keeping them engaged with other players and not just making it competition, it really pushed them. Whether, we had to drive to Knoxville for him to spend a weekend training with Ryan Williams, or going to Jackson, Mississippi to train with Devin Britton. So I always tried to keep that piece a big part of it, because I knew if that wasn't there, they weren't going to stay engaged for long. And then the other thing was, I played college tennis. And one of the things that Bill Tim had said early on, which I thought was, just spot on, was he said, I wish I could make it mandatory for every parent of the student that I coach have to play tournaments themselves. Because then they would have the understanding, but also compassion for what it's like to be out there. And I know firsthand, and in fact, I even did when the kids were younger. My sister wanted me to play a tournament, a national tournament, and so I trained and I went, and nerves, and it was horrible. I couldn't hit a ball, and I had to call home. And the kids were like, "How'd you do? How'd you do?" And I was like, "I lost." And they're like, "What do you mean you lost?"
Yep, I remember that like it was yesterday. I remember where I was when you called.
And then I had to call back the next day, and I lost in the consolations. And they're like, "You lost again?" I'm like, "Yeah."
See, I think that's good. And they said that to you. And if you had said that to them, they would have just been heartbroken, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that, again, I also saw early on was a couple parents, we're talking when the kids were in the 12 and unders and 14 and unders, and they'd walk off the court, and before they could even, process their own emotions and get in touch with it, the parent was on them and, just in their face, going at them, or they were angry that they lost. So the kid couldn't take ownership of their loss when the parent owned the loss.
Right. That's an interesting analysis. Very wise analysis from you.
Well, it was. I mean, it's really hard to see your kid when they're really putting it all out there. And Ryan, I don't know if you were. I'm sure you do remember, but I think we were in Kentucky and you were playing a national tournament and you had a really heartbreaking loss. And I remember just coming out trying to figure out what to say to make me feel better. And as a parent, you just feel so helpless. Do you remember that, Ryan?
I remember when you had me throw the grapefruit up against the wall to try and get some anger out of me.
How did that work?
She was like, "I just need you to get upset. I need you to show some emotion out there." And I was like, I was just so in my shell when I was young. And so she took a grapefruit, and we were in a hotel room, and she just hawked it against the wall. And I thought it was funny. And she was like, "No, you try it." And so I did it, and it made me feel better.
Have you tried that with your college players?
I haven't, because a lot of these guys have no problem showing emotion out there. So
yeah, that is true. That is true. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to have the two of you on is because Ryan, you and your brothers have started this new website, Tennis Takes, and I mean, how cool to be writing all about tennis, interviewing different people, discussing the game with your brothers, and coming up with these analyses of tournaments and matches and players. And I thought that was so awesome when I saw that the site had all three of your names on it. And
that makes me really happy to hear that.
I mean, one of the things I have touted on Parenting Aces from the get-go is relationships and how tennis, works in terms of a family and family dynamics, but also, forming friendships and lifelong relationships and all of that. And here y'all are exhibiting that through your work. Lisa, you must be beside yourself.
I'm I'm blown away just by their writing and all the hard work that they've put into this. It's really incredible.
So Ryan, why don't you tell my audience what Tennis Takes is and what your goals are with the site?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Marshall and Maxx are really the brainchildren of this idea. I'm just riding along and I'm helping them with whatever needs to be helped with, but they are really going into the weeds and knocking it out. But basically, what we're doing is we're trying to create an unfiltered platform for really respected and sharp tennis minds to voice their thoughts and opinions and perspective on the sport. We feel like there's kind of a void there, and we have a lot of contacts in the space and feel like we can utilize that and try and get people to listen and see if those people that we know can really voice what they have to say rather than just having it kept to themselves. And I think one of the neat aspects as well is that we know a lot of pro players and a lot of challenger level guys, and we feel like they have as big a voice as any, and we want them to share their stories and share what it's like to be out on the tour and give an unbiased opinion of their journey.
Yeah,
So
I think that's
we're
really
having a lot
cool.
of fun with it.
And you mentioned Coach Tim. He's written for you already, and I suspect we'll see a lot more from him. I hope we'll see a lot more from him on your site.
Yes, we'll see a lot more from him. He has so much stuff. It's incredible. We met the other day, and just he came over to my apartment for some coffee and to talk, and he brought a binder of probably 500 articles that he had either written or that he had written. I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah, I've shared some of his stuff on Parenting Aces too over the years. I mean, he is an incredible coach and has some very strong opinions and very wise opinions about the sport. And things are changing though, and it'll be interesting as this new ITF Transition Tour comes into play. To hear from, like you said, the futures and challenger level players and how this is impacting them. Do you have any thoughts on how that is going to play out and what it's going to do to the college game and to you as a coach who's out there trying to recruit players?
Yeah, no, I don't honestly. I know about it, but I haven't really, delved into what it's really going to do to our sport. I've heard so many different things about it that I don't really have an opinion on it because I'm just unsure of what it's really going to look like until it actually happens.
Well, I think that's pretty much everybody's perspective right now. I don't think anybody really knows what it's going to look like.
Right. Well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, as a college coach, do y'all talk about that? How this may impact you and, because I think the concern, at least on the men's side, is that players that are kind of on the fence about going to college or turning pro are going to feel pressure to get out there sooner and, start making their way out of the transition tour onto the main tour and, maybe feeling like spending time in college is going to slow down their process too much.
Yeah, and I've sat in a couple of meetings, some of the ITA meetings, and listened to some of the coaches talk about that. And I think that UTR is trying to do something where it's, I don't exactly know what they're trying to do, but they're trying to get the college guys, like the UTR, tournaments, and have them in those, and then they can ultimately, I think, transition into the transition tour through that. And I know it sounds very convoluted, but maybe I'm totally wrong in how I interpreted it. But I don't think it's going to be such a bad thing with this transition tour. I'm actually kind of excited to see how it plays out. And I mean, I know that's probably not the greatest answer, but I'm just, I guess, excited to see what it does. I don't think it's going to hurt us, though.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. I hope you're absolutely right on that. And
I hope so, too.
you know, we need helping, not hurting at this stage of the
Correct.
game for sure. And especially in the college game, you know, it's getting harder and harder out there. So
Yeah,
Lisa, I want to pull you back into the conversation. You know, you said you played college tennis and then your kids all played at different levels. Can you share what you saw as the boys were playing that was different from how it was when you were in college?
Wow. I'd say professionalism. When I was in college, you know, the coaches, we had really good coaches, but we had one coach who did everything. And there were no trainers, there were no nutritionists, there were no, you know, so it was a totally different era of sport. You know, when I was growing up, I took 1 half-hour lesson a week. That was it. And we started playing on, you know, public courts and just didn't do the travel. I was one of 8 kids. My parents didn't have that, you know. And then when we did, you know, we either went with people or, so it was totally different. But it was a wonderful experience, being a part of a team and being, you know, an athlete in college. And so when my boys were coming up, you know, as Ryan said, we introduced them to a lot of different sports. And then as they got a little bit older, they kind of, you know, Max probably specialized earlier because of Ryan being the older brother, and Marshall came into it later. So they all kind of have different stories and paths. But my goal as a parent was to keep them playing, like I said, to get to college. And I had a good friend whose son played, and yeah, this is, like you said, you know, when you're starting out and your kids are in, you know, 10s and 12s, and everybody thinks, God, my child's going to be the next Agassi, and, you know, and you start going to the next level of tournament. And I heard her talking, and she said, you know, I hope my son doesn't want to be a professional tennis player. I couldn't imagine a worse life. You know, she meant like just, she was just honest. She said the travel, she came from a tennis playing family as well. Brian, I'm talking about Cindy Davis, regarding Tyler. And so I think everybody has, you know, this glamorized view of what it's like, you know, but it's without really realizing, you know, not only the sacrifice, the financial sacrifice, but, you know, you give up a lot of family vacations. You give up a lot of holidays. And so there's a lot that you sacrifice to do it. And then, you know, it's such a long shot, you know, tennis being a worldwide sport, you know, and only the top, you know, 50 players make enough to support themselves. So it's a definite, you know, thing. The other thing that I think helped ground me as a parent was early on, you know, Brian Baker's from Nashville. And just realizing, you know, the injury piece of the sport. And we had some, Max in particular, he had 2 stress fractures when he was 12 and then again at 14. And at that time, he was homeschooled when he had the second one. And, you know, we talked, and it's like, you know, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You know, you need to go back to school for him. That was a better thing to be. You know, you could still do the high level of tennis, but he needed to be, you know, you need to have a plan B.
Right.
And I think parents need to keep that, you know, in the forefront of their mind. And especially, I think, you know, as we're talking about kids segueing from, you know, the last of junior tennis into college and then beyond. And the beautiful thing about the sport now is you see the longevity. You know, I mean, 36, you know, you can play. And I think as a player, if you have the focus and the dedication and the desire, you're going to make it. So if you can do the college, you know, you're going to not get distracted. A lot of people are fearful of being distracted by parties or this and that. But I think if you have that focus, it's a good, you know, you've got trainers, you've got coaches that, you know, the travel, everything's done for you. But when you're first coming out on that tour, you know, it's tough unless you've got a lot of unlimited resources.
For sure. Ryan, I think, you know, from my perspective as a parent, that's why I love talking to players that are on the Futures Tour right now, or, you know, have kind of worked their way, but slowly up through the process, who haven't just come out of college and boom, they're having success on the main tour, because that's where the majority of players kind of live and die, is on that futures and challengers level, right? And I mean, we all know the prize money is pretty minimal. The expenses are crazy. And, you know, I think, Lisa, you're right. You have to have such a love and passion and a focus to be able to sustain that week in and week out. But at the same time, you know, if you can do it, I mean, even looking at your path, Ryan, of playing in college, coming out, you know, taking some time off to recover from some injuries, trying it out on the tour, realizing, okay, this is not where I'm going to be. And then finding your way back to the sport through coaching. You know, how awesome is that?
It's incredible. It's incredible. And you know, I tell all the guys that are teetering when they finish college, whether to go get a job or go to play, like I say, look, go play. I mean, why not? You've already worked for 15 years in playing, and why give it up right now? At least give it a shot. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, a perfect example is Eric Buderak. I'm sure who you know. You know, he played low on his college team and just grinded it out over in France for a little while, and then sure enough, a couple of years later, he's in the finals of Wimbledon in doubles. And I mean, you just never know what's going to happen. So why not go out and play for a year, give it a chance, and go see the world, explore. And it's an avenue that you have to do that, which most people can never say that they did, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing opportunity, and it all, sadly, most of the time it boils down to finances. But you know, to be able to do it for a year, you know, shouldn't be that terribly expensive. And hopefully, if you're doing well, you can at least earn a little bit of prize money to offset some of the cost. And I mean, it's like taking a gap year, before your real job.
You got your whole life to figure that out and work. And why not take a year or two and just explore the world and play the game you love?
Right. So, Lisa, when Ryan told you that he was going to go out on tour after having the surgery after college, what were your thoughts? What went through your head?
Pretty much what Ryan just said. That was my take on it all along, was, you know, you've got a vehicle for seeing the world and traveling and meeting people and doing something that you love. So go for it. And, you know, but I always said, you know, have your eyes wide open, and that it's not glamorous. You know, there's no crowds when you're sitting in, you know, small town in the futures and you're in the finals and there's not one person there on the stand.
Right.
Yeah. It can be lonely. So, you know, I think it's not just finances that sometimes deters people. It's, you know, the week in, week out, you know, and it's a journey. So I think it was really, I mean, I'm glad he had the opportunity to do it, and realizing, you know, what you wanted after that or before that, or I don't think he would change anything. I think if he changed anything, it would be the hips that he has and the 3 surgeries, and that's something that people, you know, don't realize, that, you know, tennis is hard on the body.
Yeah. I can attest to that as a 55-year-old player.
Yes. And, you know, they cost us sport of a lifetime, but yeah, if you're just barely dinking the ball and not moving.
Right. Exactly.
So, and we did see the injuries firsthand. You know, we saw it, you know, with, say, Brian Baker, but, you know, Ryan, you know, he had to battle back from 3 of them. And then Marshall's had, what, 3 or 4. And then Max had 2 stress fractures in his back. So, you know, it's a tough thing. And a lot of players out there do it. But you also have to, you know, like think, okay, that's why I really, you know, their dad and I don't think we really gave a lot of options. You know, we really said college first. If you want to do it after, go for it.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
it's hard to go back.
Right. We've been focusing on you, Ryan, but there are 2 other tennis playing brothers that are part of Tennis Takes, Maxx and Marshall. And Lisa, I'd love for you to share a little bit about what those guys are up to.
Well, let me start with Max because, again, tennis is, it's been an incredible journey that just keeps giving, if I can say, giving back. And actually, Max has wrote a really insightful post on his experience with tennis. You know, there were a lot of highs and lows, and I'd say one of the toughest parts of his experience was his best friend, Sean Carl, who he competed with, and at one point they were, you know, top juniors in the country. He passed away from UN sarcoma. He went to UT and played for a year there, and he and Max, you know, were joined at the hip at 10 years old on. So that was a really tough part that Max had to come to grips with when he was at college. And so he didn't have quite the college experience I think that he had hoped for. And that was really hard as a parent to see your kid want something so bad and struggling so hard that it just wasn't coming. And so it was interesting because by the time he got out of college, he was kind of ready to close that chapter, he was thinking. And then all of a sudden, tennis comes full force back into his life, and he had signed up to go to the U.S. Open to be a hitting partner. And, you know, next thing you know, he's sitting in the box and with Sloane Stephens' hitting partner when she won it. So all of a sudden it's like, okay. And then he ended up, Ryan, you're the one that actually sent him the information, but he's now in Nottingham, England, getting a master's, and he's playing club tennis for them. And so he's been able to travel and see stuff and stay in tennis, but see it from a different perspective because he's playing over there where they play on Wednesday nights once a week, not on the weekends, and it's just the camaraderie, and he's loving it again. And tennis has kind of given him this opportunity, and now he sees the world and his vision for his life completely different than he did before he went to Nottingham, England. He even got to be the hitting partner for the Fed Cup in Belarus. So he's had some amazing experiences through the sport, and then to see him continue it with his brothers in this website is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And it's very cool to read his story. And like I said, there's so many different pathways that you can go on in this sport, which is one of the things I love so much about it. And, you know, it just can give back in so many ways.
Well, and reconcile, because there was a lot of heartache and disappointment, you know, but there's always another side and a brighter side if you're, willing to put yourself out there. And he did. And so I think it was neat for him to be able to get these other wonderful experiences. And then, Marshall, kudos for Marshall because he didn't start tennis until way late. He was soccer. And then he, started in last year of high school. And Marshall is very driven, committed, and determined. And when he takes something on, he just takes it on wholeheartedly. And he took that on, but probably too much for his body. And then his body broke down in college, and he wasn't really able to continue. But he's always, he was always supportive of his brothers and like the sport, and just to see them work together is awesome. Right now he's in the business world. He works for Jewelry TV in Knoxville, Tennessee, and actually Max did an internship there one summer. And I think for Max, that probably was helpful in him determining what he maybe didn't want to do, and maybe get a little.
Well, that's a good thing too. That's helpful.
No offense to Marshall, but Max, I think, realized I'm not cut out for this, great corporate world. So, you gotta have the experiences to know what you like and what you don't like. So, they're all, they're all finding their own paths, but it's neat to see that they've found this to bring them together, working together. Because, Marshall's in Knoxville part of the week. Ryan, is now back in Nashville, but he travels quite a bit. And then Max is in Nottingham, England, and then he's getting ready to be someplace else. So, with the new world that we have with these communication, it's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool. So, Ryan, let's get back to Tennis Takes. Let our audience know how to find it and what to expect when they get there.
Yeah, so it's www.tennistakes.com. And basically we're a website/blog, and we've got all kinds of different things, from short takes, which is a new series we started this week. And what we're trying to do is get names. We started out with Brian Shelton, who's obviously the head coach at Florida and was top 50 in the world. And we're going to have once a week someone like him answer 5, 6, 7 questions that we think are intriguing for our audience. We're going to try and get former players, current players, all a part of that series. And then also, as you mentioned, Coach Tim, we're going to do a little series with him. And then anything that's relevant in the game that we think our audience would like to follow, we are going to put out there. And we also have an email subscription that you can sign up for, and we'll send an email once a week on Fridays that is going to be our 5 hot takes of the week. So, we're just getting the website going, and we feel like it's got some upward traction and trend. And so it's been a lot of fun to do this with my brothers.
And you guys are on social media, so where can we find you there?
Social media. So tennis for Twitter, it's tennis @tennis_takes. And then Facebook is going to be @tennistakes. And those are the 2 we have so far. But anything that's on our website is going to go out on our Twitter feed and our Facebook news feed. So it'd be great if all of the listeners out there can go on all the platforms and sign up for the email and really get our website and Facebook and Twitter exploding.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And we will definitely have links to all of those things in the show notes. So for those of you listening, be sure and check out the notes, and you'll just be able to click and go. It'll be perfect. So easy.
Thank you. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you guys, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. Lisa, I always love having other tennis parents on, and especially when we share a name, it just makes things so easy. So thank you for coming on and talking about, your experiences, both as a player and as a parent, and now watching your kids as they move into this next phase of life. And Ryan, I go Doors. I hope you guys have a great season. And
Lisa, thank you so much. And again, I love what you're doing and getting the word out to other parents. And, the more education and the more they understand, I think the better their journey with their child will be. But if I can end with one thing, is I wouldn't change them playing tennis for anything in the world. Team sports are awesome, but that time that you have one-on-one, driving to the tournament, it really, cements a relationship. And I just love that time with the boys. Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's so many fond memories that we have of getting lost in certain places. And I remember one time I started down 3-0 in the first set because my mom couldn't figure out where the site was.
So you were late to your match?
We were late to a match. I was 14 minutes and 38 seconds late or so. And, 20 seconds more, I would have been defaulted. But I started down 3-0, and I give her a hard time about it. But, it's just things like that you remember. They're a lot of fun. So, yeah, I couldn't agree with what she's saying anymore.
That's awesome.
Yes, and I just want to note that I was mortified, and I didn't even come out of the car parking lot. I was so embarrassed. I just hope he was able to pass the match.
So, Ryan, am I safe in assuming that you would give your mom an A+ as a tennis parent?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And she, what she was saying earlier about trying to facilitate a fun environment, she absolutely did. And cultivating relationships with other players and parents was a huge part of why I love the game. So, yeah, I would 100% agree that she got an A+.
Oh, well done, Mom. And there's nothing better than hearing your kids say something nice about you as a parent, right?
I'll take that. And they were pretty awesome to work with. So it was really a fun journey. It really was. And in fact, I'm kind of envious of the parents that I'm seeing now. I'm like, last weekend we were doing an event for the Sean Carl Foundation. It was at the Tennessee qualifying, and this parent came up with his 10-year-old daughter, and he was looking for some advice. She had just lost, and she was very upset, and she needed to know what to do because the girl that she had played, that she had lost, was cheating, and she was her doubles partner in this tournament, and she didn't want to play doubles with her. And so, this little girl was just all worked up, and it was really good because I could reflect back from when my kids played, and, I just said, hey, first off, I don't know if she probably wasn't blatantly trying to cheat you, but at that age, you're just overeager, and you want the ball to be out, and, but play doubles with her, and if she makes a bad call against the other team, then correct it. But, and just to tell the parent, you know what, your child probably is missing calls too. A lot of times we just can't see that. But it just was like going back in time to all the angst, and how literal, you take it. And it's just a great learning opportunity. You're going to have to learn how to stand up for yourself. And, we look at kids that were making bad line calls against my boys, and they're best friends now,
Right.
So.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to give the advice now, I find, than when you're in the heat of it. And, I think that's really cool that you're making yourself available like that. And listen, you just mentioned the Sean Carl Foundation. I can't not ask you about that and to give a little more information. Sean's younger brother, Steven, and my son are friends and came up through juniors together. So, we're very familiar with that story. And in fact, I wrote about that at the sad time that they were living through it. It was horrible, but you mentioned it. So now let's give some information about how people can find out more.
Well, Mike and Lori, they took just a sad, tragic loss and decided that they, wanted something positive to come out of it. And so they started the foundation, Sean Carl Foundation. And its main goal is to raise money for pediatric cancer. It's so underfunded. So everything, Lori pretty much is, she does everything. And so nothing is, farmed out. Any money, any proceeds goes directly to the foundation, and they want to be able to support doctors and support actual research into pediatric cancer. The funding is, I think, 4% of all cancer dollars goes to pediatric cancer. So it's really underfunded. And they're doing some great events. They've done a songwriters night. They came with the qualifying tournament and do that. They're starting a golfing tournament. So, check out their website. Lori's got, great updates on, on what they're doing and what's going on. It's just, obviously near and dear to all of us. And just really proud of the work they're doing.
Sure. And again, we'll include a link to the foundation website in the show notes so people will be able to click on that and learn more.
Awesome. That's great.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, sure. All right, you guys. Well, we're coming to the end of our hour. So I just want to say thank you again for taking time out to chat with us. And
Absolutely.
Ryan, I wish you and Marshall and Max all the best as you get into this world of blogging and websiting and wherever else it takes you. I think I'm coming to the end of my 7th year doing this, and I continue to learn. And it really, I mean, you guys already have so many amazing contacts in the tennis world. You're going to be blown away at how that just skyrockets now that you have a platform for people to express themselves. So that's really fun. Of course. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having us. This has been a real pleasure to be talking with you.
Well, thank you, and all the best, Lisa. I hope you and I get a chance to run into each other sometime. I would love to meet you in person, and kudos on raising 3 really awesome young men.
Oh, thank you, and it's really enjoyable to be a part of this. So thanks for including me.
Sure, thank you. And to my listeners, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time on Parenting Aces. I'm Lisa Stone, and you've been listening to the Parenting Aces podcast. For tennis parents, by a tennis parent. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to us and write a review on iTunes. For more information on navigating the junior and college tennis journey, please visit us online at parentingaces.com. Thanks for tuning in and sharing us with your tennis community.